Hey guys, what's up? It's iFlynn here, and today we're going to be taking a look at the pacifist frame known as Baruuk. And at first glance, I thought I wasn't going to like this frame, so I went into it with a very negative mindset, but the more I played him, the more he kind of grew on me whenever I finally got all my format and put together the build that I wanted for him. Now, my way of building Baruuk definitely is not the be-all and end-all. You're going to find out that you want to build him in a different way. And that's why it's very important to understand all of his abilities and how they interact with his passive, because that is going to determine how you build this frame. It's mandatory to understand all of his abilities, and it's also mandatory to understand his passive, what it gives, and all that jazz before you can kind of jump to a conclusion on what type of build that you want to put together. Because, like I said, my way of building Baruuk may be completely different to how you want to build Baruuk, because you can play him in a few different ways, right? You can make him just complete CC, you can make him almost completely immune to any enemies that are shooting at you or trying to melee at you. If you have your one active, you can play him as this really damaging exalted user, right, because of the fourth ability. There's so many different ways to play this guy, but it's up to you to kind of understand what all of his abilities do and what you want to spec more into to, of course, play this frame the way that you want to play it, right? So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to talk about all of his abilities. So the first ability is called Elude. This is a drain over time ability. It's got the initial energy cost of casting it, right, of 18 energy in my build. So it says dodge all incoming projectiles, but only while not attacking. Use again to deactivate the ability, right? So this one I kind of had a lot of criticism on, because you have to mod for power range for this, or else it's not going to cover the entirety of your frame, right? So whenever you cast it initially, it's just going to be a certain angle in front of your frame, and to get the 360-degree complete immunity, then you have to have at least 200% power strength. And that's very important on my build, or whenever you take a look at my build, because I have an unranked overextended on. If we go ahead and we take a look, just to give you guys a glimpse of what my build looks like, I spec mostly into range because I want to get that 200%, because I want to be completely immune while, you know, not attacking with my one, and I want that first ability to build the most passive charge for me, right, or deduct that passive meter that I have down the bottom right. If we go ahead and we back out, you can see it's called Restraint. We want to make that go down, and we use our first, our second, and our third ability to do that. So that is why I've modded more towards range, because I feel like that ability is what's going to allow me to get that restraint meter as low as possible, as quick as possible, right? So at the start of a mission, I turn Elude on. It's a drain over time ability. I've got 0.96, but you can get this as low as, I'm pretty sure 0.65 is what I got, but it could possibly be lower. I didn't really look too much at it because I was focusing on getting the build that I wanted made. So, you know, you will be able to get a much lower amount of energy per second drain in plan you mod for fleeting, streamlined prompt continuity, and maybe even more duration. Like I said, it's up to you to experiment and kind of find what you want. But that being said, if you were to mod for, you know, lower drain, you're probably going to be sacrificing a little bit of range, which makes this ability, in my opinion, a lot weaker, right? Moving on to the second ability called Lull. I thought that was really funny because Twitch streaming and stuff like that. We have a calming wave, slows enemies until they fall into a slumber. So it's a slow and then it's a CC effect, right? So any enemy caught within the power range, which with my build is 51.25 meters, they're going to be slowed, and then eventually they're going to crawl to a sleep, right? So again, I didn't really understand the idea behind slowing them and then putting them asleep, just as much as I didn't understand the fact that you had to mod for power range on Elude, because if you were to compare the likes of Elude to Limbo's passive, where you can just roll and get immunity, it's like, why not just give the complete immunity to Baruuk, right? And the same with Lull, why not just give that instant hard CC that Equinox has on her 2 to Baruuk, right? Or, you know, even you could compare Lull to the likes of Rhino Stump, right? So I don't know, those are just some criticisms that I have. It's like, why? We have a sleep duration of 36 seconds, and just the overall duration of the ability, how long that little the effect lasts, of 9 seconds, right? So if we go ahead and we cast it, you can see that this little aura is going to stay there for 9 seconds, but it does feed a lot faster than it runs out in the bottom right hand corner. So just pay attention. You see that it's going to feed while it has about 6 seconds duration left, right? So it doesn't really line up with how much, like the visuals don't line up with how much duration you have left on that kind of slow effect or that slow aura around you whenever you cast it. And I also would have liked it if we could have casted, multiple lulls. So I could place one there, and then I could jump over here and then put another lull down to kind of have this massive area of really awesome CC. Because, like, you're not instantly crowd controlling them, right? They're not instantly going to sleep. Of course, they do go to sleep pretty fast, but it's not like it's an instant sleep CC like, the likes of Equinox or Ivara's Arrows. So that's just another little criticism that I have of the ability. Moving on to the third ability, we've got Desolate Hands. Summon a bevy of orbiting daggers to seek out enemy guns, destroying them with a small explosion combined with Elude to double the range. So if you have your 1 active, it's going to double the power range of Desolate Hands. And again, this is a CC ability which is going to disarm enemies. This one was kind of cool. Like, I like this one. You can share this one with your teammates, but basically you activate your Elude. You press your free, you got these 12 little daggers, and it's going to seek out an enemy and disarm them, which is really, really cool, because it's just CC, it stops them from shooting you. Of course, like, it's not comparable to Loki's radial disarm, but the fact that you have a disarm on your kit at all, in my opinion, is really, really, really good. So, it just lets you toy around with the enemy a little bit. And what you'll notice there is because I used my third ability and I disarmed them, we lost a little bit off our restraint, right? So losing your restraint lets you activate your fourth ability at no energy cost, right? So there you go. Took no energy and it just took our restraint. So your restraint is going to go back up again while you're in your fourth ability, but you can still use your 1, your 2, and your 3 to lower that restraint and stay in your fourth ability for a long time. So let's just go ahead and get rid of this bad guy, which is awesome. Okay, he's gone. And read on with all the abilities, right? With Desolate Hands, you also have damage reduction. That's a flat 90 damage reduction. And then you have more damage reduction on the fourth ability and on the passive. So this guy is damage reduction king, like, as far as it goes. Like, you can also combine that with the likes of Gara's too. Like, if someone casts Splinter Storm on you, or Blessing, or whatever, any damage reduction ability that can be cast on you is going to stack with Baruuk's damage reduction, which is insane. But I don't really make too much use of that because I do have the Elude at 360-degree angle because of how much range I have in the build. That, and I wouldn't really recommend playing Baruuk in that type of high-level content where you would need to have a Gara damage reduction plus a Blessing damage reduction on Baruuk, because his damage on his fourth ability just doesn't match the likes of, like, Excalibur's Exalted Blade, right? Is what I'm trying to say here. They would need to buff up a lot for it to kind of compete with that. So it's more of a fun frame than it is a, hey, let's go and kill a lot of stuff, right? So, and that's going to become very, very clear whenever I show you it versus, like, the likes of level 160 armored or shielded enemies, right? So yeah, let's go ahead and talk about this fourth ability. With his restraint eroded, Baruuk commands the Desert Wind to deliver powerful radial strikes with his fists and his feet. Each moment commanding the storm restores his restraint. We've got 395 damage base, and we've got a damage reduction of 39%. This is going to go higher with your power strength. And then reading the passive, each projectile dodged, each enemy lulled or disarmed erodes Baruuk's restraint and fuels the storm within. As Baruuk's restraint is diminished, he becomes more resistant to damage. Why can't I read becomes? I have no idea. But yeah, that all being said, looking at the build should make a lot more sense, right? So I've modded for at least 200% power range. That way, I've got the 360-degree angle on my 1, so I'm completely immune while not attacking enemies. I've modded for duration for the 2, so then, they stay asleep for longer and as many enemies as possible get affected. And then I've modded for a little bit of power strength using Umbral Intensify to make it so I have more daggers on my third ability and I deal more damage with my fourth ability, right? So Streamline's on here for efficiency because remember, your first ability is a drain over time. Duration helps out with that as well. So Constitution is a big help, as well as Prime Continuity. Stretch plus Overextended, which is unranked. Augur Reach are going to help out with that angle, and also just your power range in general on your 2 and your 3. And also, I'm pretty sure the 4 is affected by power range, like how far you can punch with your fists. I'll demonstrate that in a second. And then we also have Augur Secrets on here for a little bit more strength, Cunning Drift for a little bit more range, and yeah, that is pretty much it. Cruise Projection on here, the AAA enemy armor, because if you're going to be using the 4 as a damage dealing ability, then you're going to need this, because armored enemies and shielded enemies just, you're not going to be dealing any damage, right? So, yeah, getting rid of as much armor as possible is 110% essential with this guy. So, 2 times Arcane Strike maxed out, does stack, and helps out a lot, increasing the enjoyment of using your 4th ability. Okay. So, let's demonstrate how we use this guy, shall we? So I'm going to spawn in a mixture of different enemies. I'm going to spawn in Corpus Text, I'm going to spawn in Heavy Gunners, and I'm going to spawn in Chargers, just to kind of demonstrate how the frame is played and how I play him, right? So, let's spawn in, I would say, about 5 Heavy Gunners, okay? And we'll spawn in 5 Corpus Texts, like so. We'll spawn in 5 Chargers, which is the very, very light infested enemy, and we'll put them to level 60, which is about your first tier sortie, right? So the first mission in the sortie that you would do on a daily basis, okay? We're not going to make ourselves invincible, because the idea behind this kit is to be invincible anyway. So let's go ahead and spawn them in. So get as much energy as you can before going into a fight. Oh yeah, these guys are going to fight one another. Well, 1 dirt per video, it's fine, it's okay. Use your first ability, and then these enemies are going to start shooting at you. So your 1, by far, is the most efficient way of making that restraint meter go down, and then combining that with your 2 and your 3. Now, this is where the kit, in my opinion, contradicts itself, because your 2 and your 3 are CC abilities, right? If your first ability is the fastest way to get rid of that restraint, then why would you use your 2 and your 3 until that restraint meter is completely gone? You get me? So, like, using your 1 at the start of the mission, just to make that restraint meter go down, and then going into your 4, and then starting to use your 2 and your 3, in my opinion, is the ideal way to play Baruuk. So, that being said, what about the damage on his 4th ability? These are level 60 enemies. They die pretty quickly, but whenever that enemy armor starts to scale up, the enemy armor, the enemy shields, all that stuff, once it starts to scale up, let's go to level 110, for example, which is your highest tier of sortie. Okay, that's like the highest level enemy you're going to find if you're just playing sortie content, going no higher. These guys get very, very difficult to kill because of the armor, right? You can still kill them, definitely, but you're going to be standing there for a while, and the amount of times that you mash E, like after a few Heavy Gunner kills or a few bombard kills, you're going to find yourself back at max restraint. So you're going to have to use your 1 to lower that restraint again. So it encourages an active play style, which is alright, but I just don't think that the damage is up to scratch, you know, compared to other exalted Warframes. Take even Valkyr Talons, for example. Like, they deal so much more damage. Versus Corpus enemies, it's totally fine, right? You can kill them pretty easy. You're not one-shotting them, which the likes of Exalted or Valkyr might. Or Excalibur or Valkyr might, but I mean, it's fun. It's a ragdoll, and doing different combos is going to do different effects. So, for example, if you're doing the backwards combo, I believe, maybe it is, I forget. Like, it's so weird because it doesn't really tell you. But yeah, you can do one where you do like a backflip, right, and it pulls enemies towards you, and like it's so all over the place. Let's see. Is this it? Yeah, so that one is meant to pull enemies towards you, and then you have a hold or a pause combo, I think. Let me see. Let me go ahead and read it again. So you have a hold combo, which is if you hold down. I think it's that one. Yeah, that one. So it's like little bursts of stuff coming out of the ground, which is cool. But the more you do these combos, the more that restraint meter is going to go up again. So you kind of have to kneel it, you know what I mean? Like, you have to get it done with whenever you want to pull off that combo, because you're just going to be wasting your restraint, and it's going to go back up again, which causes you to go in this cycle of use your 1, wait until your restraint goes down, and then use your 2 and your 3 while in your 4 to keep your restraint up there, right? You should be keeping your 1 toggled on anyway, but if you're just mashing E, then you're still going to be taking damage, right? So you can't just expect to not take any damage. You kind of have to pay attention, which would question why I'm not using Vitality. Like I said, I just wouldn't use this guy in the likes of higher level content. Like, it's better off using Excalibur, it's better off using Valkyr if you're really looking for an Exalted, right? I feel like his fourth ability needs to be buffed up a little bit. You can mod his Desert Wind separately, which is his fists, his Exalted. I built it for crit because you can get up to a 94% critical chance. Because it's an Exalted, you can't use the likes of Blood Rush and stuff, and it's not really worthy of a a Condition Overload build, because it used to have 10% status, but for some reason in here it has 0%, which is interesting. So yeah, definitely not worth building Condition Overload if it has 0% status, but I could have swore that before I made this video it was 10%, but that's interesting. I built it for crit, as you can see, and this is probably one of the best builds that I can make for it, honestly. But yeah, he's an interesting frame. Don't see him being played by myself that much, I guess, especially in sortie content. Maybe in the likes of Hydron, if I just want to like melee enemies free walls, which is another thing that I question as well. Like, they took away the ability for Excalibur's Exalted Blade to keep its like its potency free walls, right? Because if you melee with Excalibur's Exalted Blade, it's gonna, or through a wall, it's gonna decay, right? And then they just give it the Baruuk. Of course, his damage is a lot lower, but I don't know, like, it's so weird. So I don't know, he's an alright frame, but it takes a while for you to kind of build up all the damage, you know. And Excalibur will kill these guys so much faster. Let's just go swap the Excalibur just to demonstrate. I don't even know what build I have in Excalibur, but we just go ahead, get our energy, hit our 4. That is so much faster. Okay, so does our Excalibur. I guess that's an argument for him. You get a lot of damage reduction, and you can basically take no damage because all the enemies are CC'd, but I mean, if I was playing Excalibur right, hit my 2, and then hit my 4. I just didn't want to give myself like a damage advantage, putting the enemies to sleep, if you get what I mean. So, I don't know. It's up to you. I guess the mistake that I'm making is I'm comparing him to the likes of Excal and Valkyr because of the fact that he has an Exalted. I just think that his Exalted should have a little bit more damage because of the amount of effort that you have to go to what's it called, actually get to it, right? I just think it should be able to more or less murderize everything because you have to use the 1, 2, 3 and blah blah to do all that. So I don't know, you get the damage reduction, but like I said, because you're completely immune with your 1, I don't know, I don't really care for it that much, and the fact that all the enemies are going to be CC'd anyway. So that is Baruuk. Like I said, you can mod him how you want to mod him. You don't have to have all that power range. You can mod more towards duration. You can mod more towards strength. Modding more towards strength is going to make the 4 a lot better, but at the same time, it just doesn't really scale well because of that 0% status. You're not going to be able to get off the likes of corrosive procs, viral procs, etc., which is what makes a lot of the weapons that you're using today and a lot of the exalted weapons that you're using today scale well into that type of content. I don't really know what they were thinking by giving it 10%, 0% status, because it just hurts the overall scalability and usability of this frame in that higher end content. So buff up the 4. The rest of the kit is fine. Just buff up the 4. You know, make it so that it makes more sense to neglect range and then do all that jazz. But anyway, guys, thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, hit that like button below. If you want to see more Warframe content from me, hit subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.